Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I had the extraordinary pleasure and privilege to sit down with one of my old Marine buddies. We grew up in the Marine Corps together. I'm going to tell that story. I'm going to share his story. It's coming up next after the break. Trust and believe. Talk about battle buddies and all that. This is my first freaking battle buddy in the Marine Corps, man. He ended up serving the rest of his tour in the Marine Corps. And, of course, I got out, tapped out, went to the Army, but that's another story. But without further ado, let me introduce this retired freaking Marine, retired gunnery sergeant, correct?
That's right.
That's it, Gunny. I just wanted to hear him say it. Freaking Gunny. Retired freaking gunnery sergeant, Mr. Lowery. Let's give it up for Mr. Lowery, y'all.
What's up, brother?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Fabulous. Living the life, retired and can't complain.
It's a, for those that don't know, it's a beautiful freaking thing. It is beautiful. Yes. It is beautiful.
Absolutely.
How's you and the family doing?
Oh, we're doing good, bro. We're doing good. We moved out to Georgia after retiring, and we couldn't be doing any better. Just love the traveling and going around to different places in the country and the world, and visiting friends and family members, and just enjoying life, brother.
This is the time I always tell people. This is the time now. We wore the uniform. We sacrificed. We've had the highs and the lows. But when it's time, when they give you that DD-214 and say, hey, your work is done here, don't bother us no more. It's a beautiful freaking feeling, man.
Yes. I try to tell all of my friends who are still serving that, but some of them are still motivated and want to continue on, to each his own, but they'll realize once they get that DD-214 and walk across that line, that parade that one more time,
Look, that DD-214 almost serves as a marriage license. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
So let's go ahead and get started. So, Mr. Lowery, let's go ahead and talk about your upbringing. What was life like for you as a young lad growing up?
Oh, bro. Growing up in the South, we have both parents. Fortunately, we grew up in the household with both parents. Had two sisters and one brother, so the four of us. And we just grew up in the South, with Southern values, the Christian values, and we had a whole cast of family support from both sides of the family, my mom and my dad's side of the family. So we couldn't have had a better life. You know what I'm saying? Our grandparents over on my mom's side, that's where everything was always happening on Sundays. And I know some of the people from the South can probably relate to that. Those good Southern barbecues every Sunday, all of the family get-togethers. Couldn't have had a better life, bro. Just grew up.
Yeah. I tell you, you talk about, I think that's what's missing nowadays. Of course, we don't know everybody's family situation, but just kind of looking at society nowadays, you can tell people that have missed out on basically what you were just talking about. Two-parent household, income, family structure, brothers, sisters, grandmas, cousins. Knowing that every Sunday we will all meet together, we will congregate, break bread, have fun. You may not like the cousin, but hey, I deal with Uncle Larry later. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Exactly. And I think that's what we're missing in society now. Because you can see it all over social media. Men, women, everyone, people are just, they're lonely. They're searching. And for you to bring it up and say, hey, Southern values, this is what we did. This was our culture. I tell you, man, it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, absolutely, bro.
Yeah, man. All right, so we talked about the upbringing. Let's get on and getting on to the getting on. Talking about the freaking beloved freaking Marine Corps. What was that process like for you when you decided, I'm going down here to the freaking station, and at some point I'm going to raise my right hand?
It was definitely one of those things where you was like, did I make the right decision at that point? Young, what was I, 17, 18 years old? How can I say it? The fear of the unknown, But once we got rolling and the recruiter, called me up and said, hey, we're shipping out. Hey, it was no turning back for me. Had already sat down with my parents, had that conversation. Because, you know, my dad, I don't know if I told you, my dad retired from the Army National Guard.
I know you used to have his picture up on your secretary in our room.
Right. Yep. So he served for 27 years in the state of Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he had that talk with me about the military. And Mom was crying because she was worried. You know how moms are.
Yeah.
Oh, my baby's going to come back brainwashed and all of that stuff. I was like, hey, I got to go. I want to travel the world and, you know, just be adventurous and see different parts of the world. And, like we discussed earlier, you know, once we got off that bus, skipping, you know, moving forward, getting off that bus at Paris Island, and it just got real. And the one thing that's imprinted in my head forever is we're riding around Paris Island and the bus driver got lost. So we finally get to some company's barracks, and a company first sergeant comes out. And he's got his hands on his hips, and, you know, he's got that frog voice, and he's telling the bus driver this. I was like, oh, man. Right away, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be one of those guys right there.
Yep. Man, I tell you, you talk about that bus rider. We talked about this before the show. Only Marines, prior service, prior Marines, whatever, current Marines, retired Marines, when you get to Paris Island, it is something about getting on that bus. And I remember, I'll tell you a quick story. When I was on the bus, you know, they pulled up to the where the footprints and everything is at, and you see those silver doors.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like 4 or 5 DIs, you know, they was congregating, talking they talk or whatever. So we was kind of on the bus, you know, we looking around, we don't know what's happening. So the DI got up on the bus, and he dapped up the bus driver. So I'm like, shoot, this might be all right. He may be okay. Man, he dapped up the bus driver. They had the little talk, and he was like, at this time, you welcome to Paris Island, South Carolina. Get off my bus now. The word now was never more powerful than it was when I heard him say now. I don't know if he said what he said, paused, then said now, but when he said now, I'm trying to jump out the window. I'm trying to go through the tailpipe. I'm trying to go up under the chassis of the bus, trying to get off.
No doubt. It hit a little different then, didn't it?
Man, I tell you, man, that was and you know, just another small quick story. When I joined the Army, I didn't have to do like their basic training, their school, and I went straight to Germany. And so I would hear them talk about basic training and all that, and I would just sit there like, I'm sure what y'all did was great, but what I did for 13 freaking weeks from January 10th to April 1st, 1994.
No doubt.
Fails in comparison. All right, so we talked about enlisting in the Marine Corps. What's up? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I said you were already indoctrinated, so all of that trash that you're talking.
Man, let me tell you. All right, so we talked about enlisting in the Marine Corps, met with the recruiter and everything. I already know this, that first duty station. Tell me about that first duty station.
Oh, brother, I tell people all the time, bro. Mm-hmm. The just all of the memories and, you know, just everything. You, me, who else was it? Slink, Covington.
Yeah,
retired Covington.
Freaking
Braddock.
Yeah,
it's a cast of those cats,
a gang of a whole bunch of folks.
It was just a moment, you know, in time that I wish would have paused. Because that's what set the tone right there, you know, the brotherhood that we created, all of the ups and downs we went through. And the one funny story that I always tell people is when we had that basketball game.
I think I know where you're going.
You remember that?
I think I know where you're going.
Oh, just the MPs, bro. And we were all up in there like we were on some big time NBA team and stuff.
Man.
And the brawl broke out, man.
Yeah, I remember that.
Brawl broke out. I mean,
it was always something. It was always something.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
In freaking Yuma, Arizona. It was always something. That first duty station, that was my only duty station, of course, in the Marine Corps. But it's like you said, that set the foundation for everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That time I was there, because pretty much that's where life started for all of us, really. That was in our little circle, even outside of our circle. You know, being in the Marines, you know, we ended up becoming roommates, because I was with my first roommate for, I think, 6-7 months. And remember, you had that racist roommate.
Right.
Remember? Yeah. The dude, he was from like up Northern California, somewhere like that.
I have another story about that cat, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yo, we definitely gonna dive into that. And I remember he ended up getting kicked out, or something happened, and that's when me and you became barracks roommates.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and dive into that story about old Buddy Boy.
Well, you know, I was stationed in California, right? We were in California for like 13 years. And Jackie and I was just lying in bed one night watching, you know, all the episodes of people being incarcerated and this, that, and the third. And lo and behold, I can't remember the name of the prison in California, very popular prison. But they were interviewing the correction officers about the violence that goes on in the prison, blah, 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 blah. And I heard this very distinct voice talking, you know, responding back to the interviewer. I was like, wait a minute, that sounds like, his name was Derek also, but with it spelled with an E.
Sure
Clark.
was.
Derek Clark. I was like, that sounds like Derek. So I looked at my wife and I was like, this sounds like my first roommate in Yuma. Brother, they panned the camera to this cat and it was him. I almost fell out of the bed, bro. He's a correction officer at I can't remember the name of the prison in California.
One of the prisons, for real?
Yeah, it's one of the popular ones there. And you know, he always thought he was cock diesel swole.
Yeah.
You know, walked around with that, you know, I'm bigger than you, whatever. Yeah. But I couldn't believe it, man. I could not believe this.
Wow, that dude's a freak. I thought you was going to say he was a freaking inmate.
He should have been.
Man. Hey, you remember that time when I could be wrong, but he invited like a girl. I don't know if she was a Marine or a civilian, but she invited him because, you know, we had, even though you live next door to me, we had joining bathrooms.
Right.
In the Marine Corps, we called them heads for cats that don't know. But we had adjoining, the head was adjoining. And this dude had fruit. Remember, he had it like in the bathroom. He had strawberries and pineapples and all that. And I went to take a piss. And you was out standing out on the catwalk, and I was like, dude, you know he got fruit in the freaking bathroom? You was like, nah. So you went back in the room, you came back like, dude, this dude got pineapples and strawberries and in a freaking bathroom, man.
I remember that, brother. I remember that now that you brought it up. He was a strange cat, man. He was just a weird cat, man.
He was, man. That cat.
I got so many stories about that dude and the altercations that we had in that little room, you know, being roommates. Yeah. And we worked in the same motor pool and get to the motor pool and we don't even talk. We don't even conversate with each other because of his, you know, his racist attitude.
His beliefs and everything. Yeah, I didn't care for the cat. Man, I tell you, you know, that was I guess I'm gonna say that's the negative part of it. But we talked about Yuma, Arizona, which was that first duty station. It was so much, man. My wife, you know my wife, Melissa, she was a Marine. Daughter was born in freaking Yuma. Your family, Yuma. I mean, that set the foundation for every freaking thing, man.
No doubt.
Beautiful time. Doubt. It was hot as Hades out there, but gosh, dog, Yuma, freaking Arizona, man.
Yeah, man. 5 years, man. 5 years. It just grew on us.
So you stayed there, because when I got out the Marines in '98, and you end up PCS in what, in '99?
February of '99, we PCS to Japan.
Okay, look, you know I love an Okinawa story. Let's go ahead and talk about that second duty assignment.
Well, that place, you know, I was stationed up on Camp HANSEN. I know you're familiar with the island because we've discussed this before. But that place was a pretty memorable place as well. You know, I served with another guy by the name of Thomas from Detroit.
Yeah.
So we were in the motor pool, and who was it? There was me, Thomas, Hunter, who's a retired master sergeant. Thomas is a retired gunnery sergeant. And then we had old Bobby Perkins. He's a retired staff sergeant. And we were all brothers, all black. Thomas from Detroit, Hunter from Florida, Perkins, I think, from Washington, D.C. So we called ourselves the Four Horsemen there. So
there
you can
go.
just imagine how tight knit we were, and how we ran the motor pool, and we were all sergeants. Yeah. And so we had that one guy named what was his name? He was the black sheep. He was actually a white guy, but he was the black sheep of the group.
The black sheep, yeah.
But man, that place we had some memorable moments there too. As a matter of fact, I just hit Thomas up on Facebook last night because his wife or his girlfriend drug him out to a Ohio State football game. I was like, bro, Lord. I thought he was Michigan through and through.
Oh Lord, that's let's go on, because that's making me mad right there. That's
that cat's name, it'll come back to me here in a minute.
Yeah,
he was a wild cat, the one that was the black sheep of the group.
So Camp Hansen, because I was stationed at Torrey Station, which is like, I want to say maybe 15-20 minutes away from Kadena, but Hansen is kind of like on that other side. And I remember going to Hansen, I had to set up, they had a Marine Corps, almost like a leadership course, because at the time the Army was sending theirs to some other place. And so I ended up talking to this gunnery sergeant. I was an E7 at the time. I'm talking to this gunnery sergeant, kind of just talking. And I said something, I guess, triggered that this dude must have been a freaking devil dog. I don't know if I said daggone, them words we always were using. I might have said trash. We called everything trash. I said something, and he was like, hey, brother, he said, was you a freaking Marine before? I said, yeah, I was stationed in Yuma from 94 to 98. And this dude was in, remember they used to have WTI in Yuma? Right. And he was like, yeah, I was in freaking WTI. Then he was like, where'd you work? I said, I worked at Marine Corps property. We used to hand out the linen, and it was pretty much, the warehouse for the whole garrison in Yuma. And he was like, hold on, man. He said, did you used to have like little curly hair? Like your hair was like in curls? And I was like, yeah. He said, dude, I remember you, man. I was like, what? I mean, the point I'm making, it's a small freaking world, man. Yeah, this is, you talking 20 something years, because this happened in 2017 when I had this conversation with him. And we went back to 1996, and he was like, I remember you. You had the little round glasses. It was you. It was a Mexican cat, and there was an old white dude that ran the warehouse. I was like, yeah, his name was Chuck. So it was just funny how that just, I was like, that's freak. I tell you, man, that's when the Lord puts you in these right places at the right time. You know what I mean?
No doubt. I can definitely shed some light on some experiences with that statement.
Yeah, man. Let's go ahead. We got time. We retired.
Oh. Well, if we fast forward,
okay,
to the Afghanistan deployment,
okay,
and into a cat there. I don't know. You remember EOD, right?
Yeah.
Out in Yuma, EOD.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
He was a staff sergeant with EOD out there. Being in a motor T, you get to meet all different types of cats. All different MOSs. You got to provide service for all of these people for whatever their exercise they're doing or whatever.
Exactly.
And I remember having a conversation with him when we were in Yuma. I was like, so what do you guys do? I ain't know nothing about EOD.
Yeah.
They started going down the list of all the stuff they do, explosive this, blah, blah, that, and blah, blah, this. But long story short, we were in Afghanistan. He was a civilian at the time. And we had a meeting every day in Afghanistan, 365 days.
Yeah.
Never get back. So going to the meeting, and he was over there as a civilian contractor. And I walked through the door to go to the meeting, and I just glanced over and saw him. I was like, wait a minute, that dude looks familiar. He had two hearing aids in his, both ears. I walked up to him. I was like, hey, you don't remember me? he looked at me. He was like, "Oh, yes, I do, Lance Corporal Lowry."
Yeah. Wow, man.
I was like, "Wow, this dude still remembers me, man."
That's crazy.
Old, hearing aids and stuff. I was like,
yeah,
man, I must have really did something bad in Yuma for him to remember me.
Cats don't, and you mentioned ELD with the hearing aids. That's par for the course, man. They always got something that's either hearing, a finger, but you saying the same thing I said. It's all about that camaraderie, that esprit de corps, all those values. And you see a person in 1990, you don't see him again in 2037, but you remember the exact place. You saw him, you remember the words, you remember the gestures. That's the beautiful thing about in our line of work, whether you Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Navy, whatever. That is something about that brotherhood, that sisterhood that we have, that I don't have to see you for 50 years, but when I see you on year 51, I'll remember everything.
We don't miss a beat, brother.
You don't miss a freaking beat.
We pick right back up like we had a conversation yesterday.
Man, and I tell you. So we talked about enlisting in the Army, your first duty station, and gosh, dog, freaking Yuma, man, getting chills thinking about our little crew, the drop squad. It was me, you, and Slink Dog and all that. Hey, before I get started, remembering, I'm going to go back to Yuma real quick. Do you remember that night when Friday came out? I know we about to tell our age here. That was 1995, and I had that silver Regal. So that's when we used to mob everywhere. We was mobbing together. 30, I mean, we was deep all the time. So we went to go see Friday, and Sandman got into it with a Crip out there in Yuma. I don't know if they bumped shoulders or you know how this stuff went back then. Right, and remember, he came back in, he was like, yo, it's going to be some static tonight. It's going to be some noise tonight. So we like, what's up? And we get outside, and there used to be a Jack in the Box right across the street.
Yeah.
And we got over there. Remember them dudes like throwing rocks and stuff at us?
Yeah.
and then we Sandman had a little thing that you shouldn't be having, So that was up under the seat, right? And so we're driving. Remember, we was driving like real slow. You was like, DA, just drive slow, man. Just be calm. So we driving back to base, and freaking Yuma Police Department was behind us. You remember that night?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we was driving, and kind of just driving slow. I'm like driving Miss Daisy, both hands on the wheel, doing all this. We ended up making it back to base, but just some of the things, because it was always something that we was always getting into in Yuma. We can have a whole 48 episodes of that. So we talked about young, dumb, stupid in the good way,
and full of bubblegum.
Man, tell you. So we talked about enlisting. We talked about the upbringing, enlisting, duty assignments. We went from Yuma to Camp HANSEN. Where did you go after Camp HANSEN?
That's when I went to back to San Diego. I went to the drill field, man. Become a drill instructor.
Let's talk about that. Even though it was at freaking, San Diego and not Paris Island, but it's all good. Let's talk about that experience from the time you made the decision, put the packet in, you got the freaking drill instructor freaking hat. What was that like?
Right. So, going back to Yuma, after I picked up sergeant, got promoted to sergeant, for those who don't know, I requested orders to the drill field. And San Diego was always on my radar because I wanted to see something different than Paris Island. And then I knew that there was more opportunities there for the family, when we're on our off time, just adventurous type stuff. But anyway,
got you.
So I requested orders as soon as I picked up sergeant, and the Marine Corps denied me because I didn't have an overseas control date. You know how that goes.
Got you.
So basically, they were saying you've never been overseas, so we're not going to, honor your request. So I was like, okay, receive orders to Okinawa. Went there, was there for about, what was it, two or 3 years? 2002, November of 2002. I was promoted to staff sergeant. And so as soon as I was promoted to staff sergeant, I requested orders to the drill field again because I had already completed like 2 years there, right?
Yep.
Marine Corps shot back and said, okay, we're going to request your orders. Honor your request to the drill field, but we're going to keep you on the island for another year because we don't have a seat for the class.
Got you.
Like, okay, boom. So that's why I ended up doing serving 4 years in Okinawa.
Okay.
Lo and behold, as that third year had already expired, starting to creep into that fourth year, then 911 hit. And, you know, that kind of threw a whole lot of stuff out of whack with everything, the entire country, with that devastating act of terrorism. Yep. So ended up going to DI school in, what was it? March of 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an experience like no other, brother. Just I can't even explain the level of adrenaline and what you put your body through from a physical and mental aspect to achieve that goal, you know, to don that campaign cover and that belt. So made it through drill instructor school. I wasn't the fastest or the loudest or whatever, or the most physical, but I made it through, you know what I'm saying?
That's it, man.
And, made it through with guts and glory and the help of, you know, friends and so on and so forth. And thought I'd never see a grown man cry or a Marine, but it is what it is. You know, just to don that campaign cover and to be able to make a difference in young kids' life. Yeah. So got the campaign cover, and the day we graduated, you know, you got the drill instructors just standing on stage and they do their about face and all of that stuff, and they're standing right there in front of you with the campaign cover. He was like, "Oh man, this is it! I made it this far."
Yeah.
And you don the campaign cover, and it's all bets are off after that.
Man,
you know, once you get across the street and join your company, and you become part of that brotherhood and start learning how your company does business, because every company does business differently on the depot in terms of their level of intensity, how they train the recruits, how they drill, how they call cadence. It's all different. You know, you don't notice that when you're a recruit, but once you become a drill instructor, all of those little details matter. So ended up going to Fox Company, and little did I know Fox Company was the most intense company on the depot. And I'm not saying this because I'm biased or whatever.
No, I got you.
Saying this because I went through the gauntlet with, you know, a couple of other friends who we built this brotherhood with, and just the level of intensity, bro. It would just make grown men tap out. You know,
I believe it.
Tap out.
Yeah,
because the most pressure there doesn't actually come from trying to make the recruits into Marines. The pressure comes from the peers who are trying to make you a better drill instructor. So definitely one of the highlights of my career, being able to make a difference in young people's lives, a positive difference, and training them to become a part of the world's 911 force is something that I would cherish for the rest of my life.
You know, I tell you, as you was explaining that, I was getting chills, man, because everything that you talked about is how it should be. You know, and this is not to discredit anybody that served them, no matter what branch. If they I did my time as a private to the time they got out or retired, and they didn't do nothing magical in between. I think sometimes you have to kind of, you know, step out on faith and do things different. And when you was explaining the whole, put my packet, Marine Corps said, no, go away. You got to do this. I don't have a freaking, you know, all these obstacles and constraints that the Marine Corps placed on you. You continue to be that tip of the spear and lean forward. I'm going to do this. I want to be a freaking DI. I know what the DIs meant to me. I want to be one. And the fact that you just walked through that whole process, you know, and for me as a person that was on the other side of that process, knowing what the DIs was like, for you to not only know what a DI was like, you were the DI. It sent chills, man. And again, just to be able to do something different. I felt that way when I was a recruiter, you know, not to the magnitude of being a Marine DI, but the fact that, hey, Johnny, Sarah, Mike, whoever is coming to that station and they in poverty, they're rich, they're poor, whatever, but I'm taking you from this. You can have this. I'm not getting nothing for it. I just want you to be successful. And you know, we got our failures, we got our successes, but I tell you, just you saying that meant a lot. You know, I don't know, man. It just meant a lot. You know what I mean? Just for you, a guy that I grew up in the Marine Corps with, and you know, we went our separate ways, you know, because we went to another branch, and communication wasn't nothing back then because we didn't have all this. But the fact that you say this is what happened to me, you know, it's truly an honor just to be able to witness that. So appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.
Oh, yes, sir. Likewise, brother. Likewise.
All right, so one thing I want to touch on the drill instructor piece. When you had that first platoon, what was that moment like? What were you saying to yourself? Not that you was doubting, like, oh man, I can't do this, what I get myself into. I know you was like, okay, how do I continue to lean forward and make sure every guy understands what it's like to earn the title of freaking Marine?
Well, it was, how can I say this? I had some challenges when I was there, when I first got there, because I went there as a staff sergeant.
Gotcha.
And I had always wanted to go there as a sergeant, you know, young, like you said earlier, young, dumb, and full of vinegar and whatever, you know, the term. And so when you know, get there and trying to learn how your company does business, and you're teamed up with 3 other staff sergeants.
Okay.
And I think out of our team, on my first cycle, I was the second most senior guy on the team.
Gotcha.
If that puts some things into perspective.
Yeah.
But I'm the lowest man on the totem pole when in terms of the experience of being a Marine Corps drill instructor. So that adaptation was a total mind shift for me. Had to really humble myself, eat a lot of humble pie. Yeah. Just to learn the ways of Fox Company, and not only Fox Company, just the drill field in general, and the depot, just the customs and the courtesy down there, and the atmosphere, the culture, completely different because you're surrounded by men that are all type A mentality.
Gotta be.
99% of us are all type A mentality.
Yeah.
So you definitely got to do a mind shift or what's the word I'm looking for? Change your mentality to where you're going to have to learn how to do this and adapt in order to be successful, and in order to train these high school kids to become Marines. And on top of all of that, those high school kids can't see you going through that adaptation.
Not at all.
What I'm saying. So,
not at all.
But going back to your question about that first cycle, we had just got up north, or the platoon or the company had just got up north the day I checked in. And when I say up north for your audience who don't understand how the Marine Corps works, there were 3 phases during the time I was a drill instructor. You know, you had first phase for San Diego, that was all down south in the city of San Diego itself. That's when they're learning all of the basics, the fundamentals of how to become a Marine. When they're teaching them all of that stuff. And then we transition into second phase. That's up on Camp Pendleton, because that's where all of the training areas and so on and so forth are at, to provide you the opportunity to employ your weapon system, to learn all of the basic navigation and survival skills, blah, 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 blah. So long story short, they had just got up north. That's the term we use, Camp Pendleton, the day I checked in. And up north is a greenbelt playground, for lack of better words. That's when you can really, really hone in your skills in and find out who the weak ones are, who the strong ones are out of your platoon, and who do you think is going to graduate, who's not going to graduate, because it's physically, both physically and mentally demanding, more so than being down in San Diego, because you got your terrain, you got all of these hikes, and, with all of these, this gear on your back, and you're trying to learn how to employ your weapon system. At the time it was the M16 at the time, before the Marine Corps transitioned to the M4.
To the M4s.
So I learned how to hurdle that challenge and make myself available to where I say, okay, this is a mind shift for me. Like I said, going back to being the lowest man on the totem pole.
Yep.
So having to eat that humble pie and learn that, okay, I need to be a part of this team, because if I'm not a part of this team, there's a chance that my team or my company might shift me off somewhere else to where they don't think I'm capable of being a drill instructor and being able to train high school kids to become a Marine.
Gotcha.
So it was an interesting dynamic, man. Pretty interesting dynamic on that first cycle. And then once you get that first cycle under your belt, and your team accepts you, and they, they do this thing where they sign you off, because you're not allowed to be with those recruits on your first couple of weeks alone, because you haven't been, signed off by.
Yeah, I got you.
Where they say, okay, we trust drill instructor Stasser and Lowery to be with these recruits by himself, because he hasn't learned the way of the company. He doesn't know the SOP, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
All of that stuff can get you in trouble.
Trust and believe that.
Can get the Marine Corps in trouble. Yep. So, pretty interesting dynamic, pretty interesting duty station. Like I say, being around all of those gentlemen with that type A mentality, and we're all trying to, reach that common goal. And we go through all of that blood, sweat, and tears just to make sure that those kids walk across the parade deck. And it's a bond that will never be broken, brother. Never be broken.
I would imagine.
As a matter of fact, last week I was back in California. We started out in Yuma, and then I went to California and spent about 3 or 4 days with a couple of those friends that were, we were all drill instructors together on the depot.
They retired as well.
Yes, there was one. He's a sergeant major now. As a matter of fact, he's from Detroit.
That's it.
Motown Brown. And if he happens to stumble across this interview, I'm giving a shout out to you, brother, because you.
No doubt. Semper freaking Fi.
Yeah, no doubt.
God, dog, it was something. When you said Detroit, it just threw me all off. You know how I get about that freaking city. You said something. No, this is what I was going to ask you. So when you was a drill instructor, they signed you off, everything was good to go. When did you feel that when did you get to the point where you was like, got it, nothing's holding me back anymore? When did you get to that moment where I can do this blindfolded, I can do this in my sleep?
On my third cycle.
Gotcha.
Because going back to that first cycle, I wasn't there for the first phase.
Right.
So I didn't get the chance to experience and witness everything that took place during first phase. So picking up on second phase, I kind of got thrown into the fire, so to speak. And, you have no time to learn all this stuff. You got to, like, you build the airplane while it's flying.
Build it in flight. Build it in flight.
That's right. Exactly. So transitioning or moving forward to the second cycle, which was my first full cycle, I was still in that learning process, still observing other drill instructors, taking the good things away and putting them in my toolbox, and taking the bad things that I've seen or whatever or experienced and throwing that to the wayside.
Gotcha.
And then we move forward to my third cycle to answer your question. That's when no one could tell me anything, brother. I was an experienced third hat, truly experienced third hat, who knew how to sling stress, who knew how to pretty much run the deck by myself without the senior drill instructor, without what we call the J, which means junior drill instructor. Without any of those guys around, I could pretty much run the platoon. With the exception of, if someone got in trouble or one of those recruits got injured or whatever, that's when the senior drill instructor would come in and throw his candy and give phone calls and whatever the case may be.
Gotcha.
But to answer your question, it was that third cycle, man. And what really solidified that was when we picked up, we call it Hell Friday. Every night, there's always this meeting, which we call school. And that meeting shifts around to every duty hut throughout the cycle. So one night, this senior drill instructor will have the scoop, whole scoop, if he is on duty.
Right.
Next night, it's a different senior drill instructor, so it bounced around. So that particular night, I think we were like in the second week, maybe, of after pickup, after Hell Friday. That particular night, my senior drill instructor had scoop. Senior drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Laredo. And so all of the green belts came to the house. And these are guys that you're going to potentially replace because they have more experience than you, right? You're going to eventually move up the belt ladder. You got what you call your fourth hat, your third hat, your J belt, which is the junior drill instructor, and then you have your senior drill instructor who wears the black belt for your audience who doesn't know. And he's the daddy of the platoon. Yeah, he's the one that all the recruits go to when they want to make a phone call, when they're sick, because the green belt's not going to give them any love. All we're going to do is cause hate, discontent. So my senior drill instructor is holding the scoop that night. And all of the green belts come to the house from all of the other platoons, and they started just tearing up the house. Just took over, flipping rags, foot lockers, trash cans, just messed up the house, right? And I'm trying to run evening BDR, to get them ready to put them in bed before taps and all. So they just tore the house up, man. And so I zeroed everybody out. And once you hear that term, zero, the recruits, they can be in midair and they know to stop in midair. Once they hear a drill instructor say zero, they know, okay, if I don't stop, this guy is going to slay me on the quarterdeck or out in the sand pit. So I zeroed everything out. These guys were all in mid-action, stopped and everything. And I was like, you got 15 seconds to pick up all of that trash and put all of my racks back online and my foot lockers just like they were. This is after the green belts had destroyed the house. Bro, they put the house back together in 10 seconds.
Gotta love it, man. Gotta love it.
This is 60 to 70 something recruits that I had control over and was doing the puppet string with, just with my voice and with my action. And all of the green belts who came in and destroyed the house stood there and watched. And once they saw that, they all looked at me and was like, oh, that's drill instructor Staff Sergeant Lowery? And they walked in the duty hut and just gave me nothing but praise to my senior drill instructor. I was like, okay, it's over. It's game over from that point.
It's over now. Y'all can, I got the whole thing. Yeah, man. That had to be with that moment in time. I'm sure whenever life gets tough or whatever, those are those moments in time where you can kind of reach back and say, I'll be okay. I got it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, brother. And as a matter of fact, my tenure on the drill field as a drill instructor, that catapulted me right there. Just that action alone, because then that's when the word spread around the entire company that, okay, this guy is intense. He's a staff sergeant. And, the people that came across this from drill instructor school with him, the majority of those guys were sergeants. This guy, he means business.
Yeah.
Just from that action alone. So.
He is exactly what the Marine Corps needs. Man, beautiful, beautiful freaking thing. Again, it's having flashbacks when you was going through all that. When the DIs count to zero, you'd be like, freeze, recruit, freeze. It's like, gosh, that's almost 30 years ago, and I'm still feeling that.
Yeah.
All right, so
you better.
Man, look, man. Everybody, we was doing Jordan logos and all that, man.
You gotta learn how to levitate and everything.
Man, I'm telling you. So now is the time. Before we go on, you was a senior drill instructor too, correct?
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk. What was that? Before we talk about it, what was that transition like?
Another one of those transitions where you had to change your mentality because you're no longer that drill instructor who is responsible for creating chaos and just creating stress every moment in those guys' life for your audience and those who don't know. Being a green belt drill instructor is like running a 2-minute drill in overtime in the playoffs all the time. the level of adrenaline and
intensity.
The level of intensity that you put your body through as a green belt drill instructor, just to let those recruits know that, hey, when you join the Marine Corps, you can find yourself in a life or death situation, and that's why we create so much stress, and that's why we are so intense all the time, to get your mindset ready for what you're about to potentially face when you join the Marine Corps and find yourself in combat, potentially.
Yeah, exactly.
So making that transition from a green belt drill instructor to a senior drill instructor who wears the black belt, he's the guy or she's the guy, gal, who, you know, gives out the candy, gives the, like I said earlier, gives the phone calls, or if, you know, one of them are sick or they have they have to go to dental and they're on bed rest, you know, it's that senior drill instructor who is supposed to quote unquote pamper that recruit or those recruits, just to let them know that, hey, I'm the father figure of this platoon.
Yeah.
You know, if you have any problems, you know, don't go outside my house and share your problems with anyone else.
Gotcha.
Bring all of your problems to me, even if you got a problem with one of my drill instructors, one of my green belt drill instructors. If you have a problem with him or her, you know, bring all of your problems to me. I'm the problem solver. I've been, you know, I've been in their role. I don't want to say played their role. I've been in their role. I know what they're going through. I've been in your role. I've been in your role, and I know what you're going through.
Yep.
I'm the daddy or the mother, you know, for the 4th Battalion or the females. So that transition was pretty interesting. I still found myself, you know, revert back to the green belt role or mentality sometimes whenever the recruits or the platoon would do something stupid and embarrass us in front of the depot or someone else. So, you know, you find yourself out in the sand pit still as a senior drill instructor. But the beauty of that is, as a senior drill instructor, you can take the whole platoon out there and, you know, just slaughter them, or for lack of better words, slay them. So interesting concept. And you find yourself on the phone with recruiters or parents, so on and so forth. If, you know, little Johnny's got to make a phone call because if someone died in the family, or they get a Dear John letter, you know, you got to wear multiple hats as a senior drill instructor.
You got to be able to facilitate all that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, brother, absolutely,
man. And again, just knowing you when we were both troops, and you growing up drill instructor, now you're the guy that's spanking everybody. Now you go from the guy that's spanking everybody to the guy that's saying, hey, just because you got spanked, it didn't really feel that bad, did it?
This is what you asked for.
This is what you asked for. You know, we can make it better. All right, so now drill instructor, that tour is over. Where did you go after that?
I transferred to Camp Pendleton to 11th Marines.
Okay.
That's artillery for your audience that doesn't know. So that was on Los Pogus, Camp Pendleton, up in the boondocks, so to speak. 211, 2nd Battalion, 11th Marines was the first duty station. And got there and started learning, you know, how artillery functions and what our mission was, you know, from a motor transportation aspect, and how to provide support for those guys and the things that they do. So went to 2nd Battalion, 11th Marines, and then had to go down for a little while because I had some medical issues. So I went down for about 6 or 7 months. Was on limited duty for my medical issue. Came back, and once I was getting ready to transition back to 11th Marines, they shifted me from 2nd Battalion to 5th Battalion, 11th Marines, which they had just acquired this HIMARS capability. And I don't know if you know about the HIMARS, but it came from the Army.
I'm familiar with it.
Rocket system that fires off the back of a chassis. So that was a unique perspective because that was the first HIMARS unit in the Marine Corps to be indoctrinated in the Marine Corps. And oh, by the way, you guys are deploying to Iraq. with this new weapon system. So definitely a fun time there. Next to being a drill instructor, with, like I said, going back to the Marine, all of the Marines there, the drill instructors there having that tight A mentality and the level of discipline that we all had to instill discipline into the recruits. That duty station was probably the most disciplined I had been to in terms of the Marines. Their level of discipline was like through the roof.
What was that transition? And it's funny that you know, for all the MOSs or the branches to go from being a drill instructor, now you're dealing with artillery folks, the gun bunnies. You know, it's always high energy, high octane, high up tempo. What was that like once you took off the campaign cover and you realized, okay, I'm back in the fleet? How do I shift my mindset from supporting by virtue of my MOS versus yelling at recruits? What was that transition like?
It was rough. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's rough for anyone to transition from being a drill instructor back into the Fleet Marine Force.
Right.
You know, 3 years of just putting your mind and your body through that stressful environment, that the physical aspect of it, and then coming back to the Fleet Marine Force, and everybody's a Marine.
Yeah.
So there's no more, you know, get online, recruit, shut up. You know, you have to entertain these Marines from a different aspect because they're Marines now. So you have to respect that and you have to honor that up to a certain point.
Exactly.
But the transition wasn't as rough as some of my friends have had it, because like I said earlier, the level of discipline that 11th Marines have or had at that time, at that moment, it was impeccable. So it wasn't really a need to be as stressful, to you know, try and instill Marine Corps values and all of that into the Marines, because these guys were top notch, brother. I'm talking top notch, because they knew that the decisions that they made could potentially get their brothers killed to their right and their left.
Exactly.
Or, you know, it was a life or death situation with everything that these guys did. Yeah. So that made the transition a little easier, but having to shift that mentality back to Fleet Marine Force status, you know, it was kind of a bumpy road at first.
I would imagine, like you say, I would imagine that transition, just say if you didn't go to a unit that wasn't disciplined, you went to a unit where everyone's kind of just doing whatever, you probably would have had to reach back and pull out that campaign cover, if you will, to try to instill some discipline. You know what I mean?
I found myself doing it a couple of times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I would imagine, because I've seen, you know, I've had folks talk about that, and I've seen videos about that. The guys are like, man, you know, I was a freaking DI at Paris Island, and then I ended up going to Unit X, and Unit X was freaking trash. And I get over there, and next thing you know, I'm in the freaking Sergeant Major's office. You know what I'm saying? And put my hands on somebody. So I definitely understand that.
Exactly.
Okay, so now you're in artillery world. Where did you go after you was in artillery land?
Next duty station.
Right.
I transitioned to still on Camp Pendleton to the MLG at the time. It was called Marine Logistics Group.
Yep.
So that entire apparatus is all about providing support to the trigger pullers and the ground fighters,
or the war fighters,
the air element as well, if need be. So I went to a regiment called CLR 17, Combat Logistics Regiment 17, and that was the parent command, and under that command, they controlled all of the Marine Expeditionary units, all of them used for the West Coast.
Yeah.
Well, let me correct myself. They didn't control it. They provided personnel for those units. And once that unit, those Marine expeditionary units stood up and they were all certified to deploy on ship, they fell under the Marine Expeditionary Force, which controls the entire West Coast. So CLR 17, I did my stint there. What was it? I was there for about two or 3 years. I actually deployed to Afghanistan with CLR 17, but we detached from them and fell under the MLG forward in Afghanistan. I think I mentioned that earlier. So we were in Afghanistan for 365 days.
When you say in those terms, I think about being in Okinawa and hearing MLG and some of those other units providing the expeditionary support, supporting the warfighter, the trigger finger, the trigger puller, all those guys. When you left Camp Pendleton, where did you go after that? Did you do another stint in Okie after Camp Pendleton?
Oh no, I retired. I retired at Camp.
You retired at Camp. So pretty much your last few years, it was at Camp Pendleton, right?
13 years?
Was 13 years at Camp Pendleton?
Let me see. I got there in 06.
I know I got you doing public math right here.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Hey, I'm including. I know, right?
Right.
Oh man,
you know what I'm saying?
Alabama education, brother.
Man, I tell you.
So I'm including the years that I was on the depot in that entire 13 years. So I only spent 8 years on Camp Pendleton.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah. So I retired in 2014 from the sister unit to CLR 17. So I transitioned to CLR 1, Combat Logistics Regiment 1, and I retired from that unit.
When you made the decision to turn in that retirement packet, I'm not going to say, because we all have reasons why we retire, but did you get to a point? I guess let me start like this. When I got to a point, I left. I retired at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And that unit that I was in was like the perfect place to retire. I was an incoming master sergeant, and it was like 2 other master sergeants that was there, and a sergeant major.
Right.
And I was still, the unit I was in prior to that in Korea, it was a field artillery unit, and it was just constant. We got to go to the field every hour on the hour, and when we come back, we got to go back again. It was one of them type of units. And when I got to Fort, very high up tempo. And when I was in Korea, that's when it was really hot. When the fat kid was launching the missiles. This was 17 to 18. So when I PCS from Korea to Fort Knox, and there's hey, you in Unit X, and these guys, it was kind of just, hey, Master, you can leave if you want, man. I'll see you tomorrow. I wasn't used to that. Because I'm like, shoot, the place I was just at, that was no, hey, Master, it was, you had to do this. And when I got to Fort Knox, I realized I don't know if I want to be in the Army anymore. And I always tell Melissa, if I had went to another unit like the one I was in Korea, I probably would have been sitting in the Sergeant Major's Academy. Because if you've been in them units where it forces you, even if you don't feel like it, hey, who cares if your leg broke? Use the other one. It was one of them type of units. And when I got to Fort Knox, I realized, man, all these other master sergeants around here, the Sergeant Major getting ready to retire, he ready to retire. We leaving every day at freaking 1300. I don't want to do this no more. Plus, I had surgeries and all that. I guess I'm saying all that to say, when did you get to the point where okay, here's my packet, Marine Corps, approve it, disapprove it. If you disapprove it, I'm gonna turn it in again anyway. When did you get to that point?
Almost, similar scenario to yours.
Yeah.
Going back to when I said I was with 11th Marines, I went down for some medical issues.
Yeah.
I never shared this with you, but I actually had bypass surgery.
What?
At 32 years old. And that was shortly after leaving the drill field.
Wow. So
I went down with bypass surgery, find out that I'm diagnosed, they diagnosed me with thrombocytosis. So it's a rare blood disorder didn't know anything about it. You know, obviously had to do all of this research, and
Right.
find out what is this. You know, what type of medical term is this? And, you know, just kept reading. And, but anyway, once all of that stuff took place, did the bypass surgery back in 07, May of 07. That's when I was with artillery.
Yeah.
They sent me, the Marine Corps sent me up to 1st Marine Division, G4, so I could recover from the surgery.
Yeah.
So I ended up staying up there for 6 months on limited duty. No physical activity, none whatsoever. You know, I got the whole scar on the chest, the whole kit and caboodle, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
And after all of that recovery phase was over, that's when, you know, like I said earlier, they come back and say, oh, we're going to send you to 5th Battalion, 11th Marines. And oh, by the way, they're getting ready to deploy to Iraq. They're already doing their workups. They're pre-deployment. They're already in pre-deployment phase.
Yep.
And oh, by the way, you got to run a PFT just to prove that you can still serve after being on limited duty for 6 months.
Yeah.
Bypass surgery.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did all of that stuff, got myself back in shape, ended up running a PFT. I ran it in 24 minutes after 6 months and after having bypass surgery.
That's good.
In the winter, if you can call it winter in Camp Pendleton. But
Yeah.
anyway, so going back forward to your question about when did I make that decision that, you know, turning in those retirement papers, the medication that I am on for the rest of my life had taken its toll by then, because I'm on some pretty stringent, a pretty stringent medication regime, just to prevent the thrombocytosis from rearing its ugly head up again.
Yeah.
So I get to CLR 17, and immediately I'm back into a deployment mindset, because this unit is in the deployment rotation. So I said, okay, tighten up my bootstraps, tighten up my pack straps, and dove right into pre-deployment training for that unit, and deployed to Afghanistan for a year, did our thing there, come back, and immediately, as soon as I step off the bus, she's now Sergeant Major Smith. I don't know if she's retired. At the time, she was First Sergeant Smith. I'm about to hit the ground, the asphalt off the bus from deployment, and she says, "You're going to be my company Gunnery Sergeant." Aye, First Sergeant. You know, what else are you going to say to, you know,
Roger
to the First
that.
Sergeant? Aye, First Sergeant.
Yeah.
I ain't even hugged my family yet, bro. So did that thing, you know, became the company First Sergeant for Headquarters Company CLR 17. We get a new Sergeant Major in. He steps on deck and he's like, "You're going to be the company First Sergeant for Military Police Company." Aye, Sergeant Major.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Did that thing, whatever. And I noticed that my physical abilities started to deteriorate.
Got
you know, going back to the medication that I'm on, the lack of oxygen that's flowing through my blood. You know, I'm on blood thinners, all of this type of stuff. I'm on 4 different medications for the rest of my life, and I just noticed that, you know, I couldn't run my PFTs as fast as I used to anymore. Couldn't keep up with those younger Marines like I used to be able to, you know. And I don't want to attribute that to being older. I 100% attribute that to the medication that I'm on for the rest of my life. The statin, the blood thinner, the medication to prevent the thrombocytosis from coming back up, all that. So getting into CLR 1, which is where I retired from, I was like, this is it, you know. We started doing all of these training exercises, and you know, going back to, I'm falling out of runs now, which is something that never happened,
is unheard of.
My career. I can't run like I used to anymore. I'm out of breath. All of this stuff, brother. And I was like, you know, it's time for me to call it quits. Let the younger guys come on up and have their moment of glory or fame or whatever, and, you know, continue to teach the younger guys
exactly
that I know and the things that I learned, my experience. But I had already shifted my mentality to okay, it's time to retire. I can no longer keep up with this young man's game, so that was it.
And, you know, plus the game is changing. the policies of the game is changing. And I tell you, I don't even know if you knew this. I came back from Korea 2018, checked into the unit here, and I had 2 knee surgeries. 2019, wow. It was the first one was orthoscopic, and then the second one I had in 2020, year to the date on both freaking surgeries. That's freaking crazy. And I had a full knee replacement. So 19 was orthoscopic, 20 was full knee replacement. And all of those years, the 4 years in the Marine Corps, the 20 plus years in the Army, I ain't going to freaking sick call. I'm not going to freaking hospital. I'm not doing that. I'm not taking that. I'm not doing that. Right. And I always tell Melissa, even though I complained about the unit I was in at Fort Knox, my last unit, I was thankful that God placed me in that unit, because if I hadn't, I probably wouldn't been retired. But it made me realize, dude, you are not freaking young no more. You sitting on 2 back-to-back knee surgeries. Even now, man, I still got freaking phone going off. How Apple had a phone going off? I ain't even said nothing. That shows you listening. But I still have fluid in my freaking knee to this day. I can't hardly bend. I thank God I got, my 100% and all that. Can't bend down, can't do this, can't do that. Some of the same things you're talking about. And that's when I realized, do I really want to try to compete for Sergeant Major when mentally and physically damn sure can't do it no more? Especially with the way the Army was moving. And it's like the Marine Corps. You guys were great. Appreciate what you did. Go away. We want the younger guys. And the policies and everything that they're doing now, it was a blessing that I went to Fort Knox. As much as I kicked and screamed about it, I'm thankful that I was there, because it allowed my body to kind of sit down and say, all these years that you've been hyperactive and doing all these other things, you got to take care of yourself. So I definitely, applaud you on that, because it's a hard decision for us guys, our senior folks, Oh, yeah. It's a difficult, because, you got your retirement, you got your VA, but your life, man, changes. And I still struggle with retirement. I'm retired. All I do is, get my wife and kids ready for school and work. And I do this show, but I still walk around like I'm a freaking master sergeant. Hey, what time you got to freaking, what time you said you got to be at freaking school? Well, 15 minutes to the 15 minutes prior, and being early is on time. All this stuff that is like, dude, chill.
It's in your DNA now.
And I know you share some of those same things. It's a difficult transition. It really is.
Yes, brother.
So, man, I tell you. All right, so we done went from being in the Marines, retired now. You are doing something extraordinary right now in your current capacity. Let's talk about that.
Absolutely, brother. I am actually fulfilling my passion.
Yeah.
And, I think you have a passion for trucks also.
Yeah. Love it.
So I remember your video. You showed me about your man cave, and I was like, oh man. I don't want to show my little trucks I got going on in here.
Man.
But anyway, going back to like we said, the Marine Corps or the military in general is a small world, right?
Mm-hmm.
While I was in Afghanistan, I ran into a cat who used to be in the Army. And to this day, I can't remember his name. He was a brother from Texas.
Okay.
And he managed all of the bus routes in Afghanistan.
Gotcha.
For the military and even the CIA and the civilians, whatever, to go from point A to point B. He was the manager of that.
Gotcha.
And we were in that meeting one day. That meeting we had every day.
Mm-hmm.
And he got a phone call. He had a sat phone, all that stuff. And he stepped outside real quick. He came back in, and he sat next to me. And he was like, it's just something all the time, man. Something all the time. And I was like, what you talking about, man? He was like, one of my trucks, back home, he needed to buy an engine or something for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, huh? He's like, yeah, I have a trucking business back in Texas. He was like, he showed me pictures, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And as time went on, he saw how I conducted business out there from a transportation aspect.
Got you.
Because I represented the entire MLG in these meetings on,
you
know, where is this helicopter going and what's coming off that
exactly
ship? And
moving
where's this
logistics.
30 vehicle convoy going? All of that stuff had to get coordinated through the office that I controlled.
Yep.
And so he saw how I conducted business, and he was like, bro, when you retire, he said, you need to, you know, go and do this stuff on your own. Don't work for a company. Don't go work for some transportation company, blah, 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 logistics company. He said, you have the gift of the gab to do this by yourself, you know, as a business owner. So I took that and, you know, I put that in my toolbox.
Yep.
And I think back to the YUMA days, as you know, lance corporals, as you know, as we grew up, corporals, and some of the master sergeants that were my mentors, who would always say, "Hey, when you get this class, make sure it goes into your record, and always think about doing something for yourself to set yourself up, you know, when you retire." And all of that stuff, man, it all started. I just started brainstorming as I started reaching retirement. And, you know, I said, I talked with Jackie, my wife. I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. You know, I don't want to work for anybody anymore. You know, I don't want to be told what to do anymore, blah, 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 blah. You know how it goes. You're an independent thinker as well.
Yeah.
And
I try to be.
I got you. Melissa might have to pull the weight on some of that.
Unless my commanding general says something. You know.
I know, right? I'm the same way, bro.
I tell you, I'm just here for support, man.
Yeah. So fast forward into now, brother. I have the logistics company. I have 3 trucks, 2 drivers. Like we discussed about a month ago or so, I've already set up myself, or the business, I should say, to start venturing off into the government freight and doing government contracts. I have the certificates. I'm still in the process of receiving one more certificate. That's really going to catapult the company for you know, government contracts and stuff, and so on and so forth.
That's where it's at.
That's what we're doing right now. And I say we because Jackie, she does a lot of the administrative stuff, so I can't leave her out of it.
Exactly.
She takes care of a lot of the administrative stuff. I deal with the drivers, I deal with the shippers, and some brokers and the customers who are receiving the freight.
I tell you, man, and you know, we talk about, you know, so from the time that we met, that was always my thing, you know, semi trucks. I've always loved freaking trucks. And I want to take you back to probably 1994 or 5. You had to go on an emergency mission. I want to say the camp. No, it wasn't camp. It had to be 29 Palms. Yeah, it was 29 Palms. It was a 96 4-day weekend, right? And we was in the room chilling, and you got a message from freaking someone on duty. Said, "Hey, you got to go on this freaking mission." I forgot what the cargo was. But you was like, "Hey man, you on a roll?" Because you couldn't find, they didn't have no A driver. So you was like, "Hey man, you on a roll?" And I was like, "Shoot, I ain't doing nothing. I'm sitting here with you." So we end up going to, remember that? I think me, you, and Slinky went to 29 Palms that next day. It was during a long weekend.
I think it was San Diego. I remember me, you, and Slink.
Was it San Diego? I thought it was 29 Palms.
Because I remember traveling through the Jacuma Mountains.
Yep. Right. Exactly.
And we stopped in El Centro at Jack in the Box and got us a burger. And,
Jack in the Crack.
I think that was San Diego.
Yeah, it was San Diego. And I remember that. And I was like, man, this is freaking awesome to freaking transport and cargo. Even though they woke you up, we was chilling. Hey, transport this. Logistics, supporting the warfighter, all those things. And I think back to my time in Iraq, we had in our warehouse in the Army, they call them SSAs, which is supply support activities, freaking warehouses. And so we had a fleet of semi trucks. We had probably 18. We had 18 trailers, and we had, I think, 22 bobtails. You know, it was never an equal number. And I remember we were driving these trucks through Iraq, and you know how that type of stuff is. That's another conversation. But I remember just driving, and I was like, this is what I've always wanted to freaking do. Just drive a freaking truck, man. Freaking bobtail it. Hook up the trailer, man. Make sure it's at the right height. Get the freaking landing gear. Hook up the freaking cables and release the freaking air. It's the brake line. All that little stuff, man. I freaking fulfilled that freaking dream. I've always wanted to freaking do that, man. So
absolutely,
I guess getting to the point, I'm so happy that you're doing something that you want to do, because so many of us, you know, society could say, oh, well, you guys were controlled for 25 years, and then as soon as you retire, they want to go work in government. They want to do a GS or whatever, which is okay, but it takes a lot of strength and courage to do something, be an independent thinker, like you said, risk everything, finances and all that. I want to start from the ground up. I want to get my hands dirty and see this thing through. It may be a struggle year 5, but year 6, we're going to prosper. So kudos to you on that, man. Kudos.
I appreciate it, brother. Same to you, man.
Hey, man.
With your podcast and what you have going on as well, because I know it's not easy. And like you say, going back to the struggles that you go through when you first step into that realm after leaving the military for 20-something plus years, or whatever. Being told, what to do, or receiving orders, do this mission, do that mission, blah, 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 blah.
Execute.
And then all of a sudden, you're on your own. There's no support back at headquarters company or supply or, or this battalion's not going to come rescue you. It's all you. All bets are off.
All you, man.
From a financial aspect, from a critical thinking aspect, everything. You are the single point of failure.
Yeah.
For lack of better words.
You're right.
To make your business prosper.
Yep. And we continue to hold on those values and what we used, to make sure our day-to-day activity, our day-to-day functions were serviceable. Now we got to still employ these tactics and procedures to make sure what we're doing, is right. So appreciate it.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Let me get the name of your trucking business.
It's called DML. That's Delta Mike Lima.
Yep.
Transportation and Logistics Corp. And the word "and" is actually spelled out.
Gotcha.
Okay. The website is DML-trans.com. Trans is TRANS.
Gotcha. Definitely want to plug that. So, man,
yes, sir.
We definitely been reminiscing. Man, I tell you, 1994, 1998, we pretty much talked every day. He got discharged from the Marine Corps, decided to go to the dark side and join the other folks for 20-some years. Lost contact. No internet, none of that stuff back then. Finally reconnected. Always been Facebook, But this is the first time since 1998 that we actually saw each other. Not just pictures and video, but physically saw each other. We talking 98, and this is 2022. That's freaking incredible. And what did we say? As soon as we saw each other, we start laughing. We just started laughing. That is the beauty of the brotherhood that we've shared almost 25, 26 years. You just start laughing. And anybody that's done what we've done, branch and material, that's what you do. You just start laughing. And you
pick right back up. Like
you just pick right back up. All those times. Yeah. It's not like, oh man, well, I wonder how you gonna be. It's like you just start grinning. You just start laughing. Because there's so many moments in time. And like I said, like you even said it when we first started. That moment in time, if you could just freeze those years, man, epic freaking time.
Yes, bro. Yes. And believe it or not, man, I learned a lot from just being around you and Sling and even Braddock, because you guys, you come from even though we're all Americans and we all somewhat share the same culture because we were all black, so to speak.
Yeah.
You guys came from different parts of the country.
Yeah.
And you bought, your experience. I bought my experience.
Yeah.
Right out, Sneaky.
Yeah.
Both of you guys from Detroit. But
Yeah.
I actually learned a lot from you guys, man.
Likewise, you as well, man. You was the first person that I actually. You was the first person I actually was invested in as it related to Southern hospitality. You've always been big on Southern hospitality. And me and you, Slink, was like, man, shut up, man. Let's go to Burger King. What's this dude talking about? But I've always respected that. It's always been about family with you. And I know we all have family issues, the idiot cousin, all this stuff. But it's always been family with you. Two things I want to talk about before we get off. Do you remember the time? It's so many stories. We were going to a club. This back in our clubbing days, folks. Pre-married, pre-all that. We went to a club in freaking San Luis, Mexico. I want to say this club was called La Faya. I could be wrong. We get over there, no issue. Coming back, though. Coming back to freaking America. And I don't know who was driving. Me, you, Slinky, one of us. And you know how the customs agents ask you those standard questions. Where you coming from? What were you doing? Do you have any fruit? Whatever, right?
Right.
And they asked me, what is your nationality, whatever. And I said, USA. They asked Slinky, he said USA. This guy right here, they asked him, he said, I'm American. You remember that? He was like, I'm American. And so the customs agent was like, okay, what is your nationality? I said I'm American. Gentlemen, can you all step out the vehicle, please? You remember that?
Oh, yeah, bro. I had too many tequila shots, bro.
It was like, dude, just say USA. He was like, he was like, I'm American.
Oh, bro, I remember that like it was yesterday.
He was like, I'm American. And another thing I want to say too, we both have a friend in common that we didn't know until I was stationed in Korea. And I would tell you, and I'll let you elaborate, but we had a company, a battalion Christmas party. You know how they do them little parties or whatever. Right. And this person had a picture of me, him, and some other folks in our unit. Yeah. So this Christmas party was like on a Thursday, and we had that Friday off, so we came back to work that Monday. And he walked in my office, and he said, hey, man, that's how Sergeant Majors talk to you. They just say, hey, man. He said, hey, man, you know Lowery? And so it didn't ring a bell because I was engaged in some type of whatever I was doing. He said, you know Lowery? And I was like, Lowery? So I knew who he's talking about. I'm like, how do you freaking know who he is? And I'm like, Derek? He was like, yeah, freaking Lowery. He's like, I went to boot camp with him. And I was like, Sergeant Major, you went to freaking boot camp with Lowery? So go ahead and finish that, man, how you guys knew each other.
So actually, going back to MEPS in Montgomery, Alabama, which is where Randy Brown is from. We caught the bus from MEPS all the way up to South Carolina, blah, blah, blah. You know the story.
Yeah.
We get there and we go through all of that, all of those different phases and whatever before we get to our platoon. And come to find out, we're in the same platoon, bro. Me, Brown, and this guy named Crumb, which I haven't heard from since we graduated boot camp.
Right.
Crumb and Brown, Randy Brown, are both from Montgomery. And, I'm from the sticks, like 45 minutes south of Montgomery. Same platoon, went through the same struggles to graduate boot camp. And throughout boot camp, I guess the drill instructors noticed something in us. I don't know what they noticed in us. Must have been because we were all from Alabama. Me, Brown, and Crumb are all squad leaders. And then I ended up being the guy when we graduated. I don't know why they didn't pick Crumb to be the guy, because he was the biggest one. Yeah. Big old meathead like The Rock, Dwayne Johnson looking cat, man. But that's where you know, we first met, and like, you know, you and I have shared, you will never forget those moments, you know, that you share, especially those blood, sweat, and tears moments, in order to accomplish the same goal, or you know, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
And,
yeah, man. Sergeant Major,
smooth cat too, boy.
Yeah, he still is. Still is.
Sir.
You know, he's the freaking he's right now. He's the U.S. Army Transportation Regimental Command Sergeant Major. So he's
nice.
Yeah, man, freaking Brown. I was like, man, that's freaking crazy. I'm like, how do you know freaking? I was like, Sergeant Major, how do you know Lowery? And he's like, well, I can't know nobody. And I was like, no, I'm trying to freaking connect the dots. Because I was like, we were freaking, because I knew he was a Marine. Yeah, because I was like, he's a Marine, then it started, you know, making sense. And I was like, yeah, me and Lowery, man, we freaking grew up. We was Marine pups, man.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So
he was actually stationed in, was it Tustin before they shut it down and moved to Miramar?
Or was it El Toro?
El Toro. El Toro was in Tustin. That's what it is.
That's right. Yep, sure was. So, yep, because I remember he was saying that.
Yeah,
he was like, yeah, you know, that's that's old school Marines when they remember Tustin and El Toro.
El Toro, yeah.
That's them back in the day Marines. Hey, man, I definitely want to appreciate you taking this time today, man. It's been an honor and a privilege to kind of reunite with my brother, man, my Marine Corps brother.
Oh, likewise,
we've been
brother.
Through it, man. Oh, God, the stories that can be shared, the stories that can't be shared.
Oh, brother, man. Yeah, there's some ones we can't talk about.
Hey, man,
no doubt.
Young teenage Marines with money. One thing I want to tell you, and I know I've been like, gosh, dog, man, whose interview is it, mine or yours? One thing I want to tell you, one thing that I knew, you always was solid. We always had, there was no issues with us. But that moment in time, remember when I had that Regal and the freaking, I went on leave to Detroit and I left the Regal parked in the airport parking lot. They stole it. I went to retrieve it, driving on the interstate in Phoenix, 600 degrees outside. The Joker blew up and all that. Right. You was like, I got you, DA. And after that, you know, I didn't have another car while I was in the Marine Corps, you know, till me and Melissa got married. But you was like, I got you. And that right there, you and Slink, y'all was like, wherever we go, you going with us. And I tell you, that right there, man, that to me set the foundation for friendship, brotherhood, all of that. That was what true friendship was. So again, this is almost 30 years ago, but I definitely appreciate that. Because you had that little Mitsubishi Galant. I remember that.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And you was like, we got you, DA. We got you. So appreciate that, man.
Absolutely, brother.
Yeah, man. So again, say all blessings and honor to your family, blessings to your business. I can't wait to see how this thing prospers. You know, I'm always rooting for the truck drivers. More importantly, rooting for you and the family as well. Just real quick, your wife, she was a drill instructor too, right?
Actually, she was a recruiter. She's a Marine Corps
recruiter
in Los Angeles.
Okay. So now we share the same mindset, being a recruiter. You know, I love that part of it. So definitely appreciate everything, man. You got any last words?
Oh, I just want to say I appreciate this opportunity, man, and I'm really proud of, you know, what you got going on, you and Melissa and the family. I know we've had the conversation about a month or two ago, and I just want to say I'm thankful, brother, that we had the opportunity to serve and you know, become brothers for life, brother.
Yes. No, ain't no denying. Jay-Z said that one time. Ain't no denying that.
No doubt.
Yeah, appreciate everything, man.
All right, brother. Likewise.